Yeah, hi. Good evening, everyone. Thank you all for joining. Today is a very important session. Psychology tests are usually the most misunderstood or बहुत ज़्यादा misconceptions उसी में है. GTO interview are still okay. People do figure out in some manner कि कैसे tackle करना होता है. But psychology tests is a very big gray area for most of the aspirants. So I want to take this to as much depth as possible and explain it in very simple language. I won't use any psychology jargons. I won't use any big terminologies. If you have gone through the slides, you would already know. I have structured the syllabus in a very simple to digest form. So pay attention. Try to make notes. If you have any doubts, note them down. And towards the end of the session, I'll take all your doubts, but keep your doubts restricted to what has been taught today only. Okay? So let me start sharing my screen. Yeah. I think today I have turned off annotations. I just hope no one can do that funny stuff, scratching on the slides, scribbling some stuff today. ठीक है, we are 4 minutes late, but that's all right. Let's start with the psychology test series. Just give me one more moment. Yeah. All right. I hope you all have understood what has been covered in the first two sessions. Let me just quickly summarize what has been covered so far. On day one, we saw what SSB is, what qualities are they looking for, why are those qualities important for a military officer, what are his or her core responsibilities, and what are these qualities, how many factors they are divided into, and broadly, in layman terms, we also try to understand what these qualities mean. Like, what does courage mean? What does stamina mean? Those four factors and 15 officer like qualities within those four factors. So, we understood that on day one. And day two was a deep dive into screening tests, OIR and PPDT. And overall, marking scheme of screening tests, I didn't find the PDF of that marking scheme, but I have shared a video in which I explained the marking scheme in detail. This was an Instagram live I conducted around 2-3 years ago when I was still serving in the army. So if you go through that video, you will understand the exact marking scheme and how you can maximize your performance in screening tests. So that was about the first two sessions. Today we'll look into psychology tests. First, we'll cover how psychology tests have come into place and what exactly are being checked, and then we'll dive deep into TAT. That is the most important test when it comes to psychology tests, and it will also help you in clearing PPDT. If you understand TAT, then you're also naturally doing well in your screening, OIR plus PPDT. So let's get started. Psychology tests at SSB consist of these four tests: TAT, which stands for Thematic Apperception Test; WAT, Word Association Test; SRT, Situation Reaction Test; and SD, which is Self Description. This most of you must be already knowing, so let us not go deep into what each test means. Oh, who is this person? Who is this mysterious person, the psychologist? Because interviewing officer, you guys get to see. GTO will be with you for 2 days and you interact with him a lot of times. But this psychologist is the mystery man or mystery woman who you never get to see. So this person is the least understood, but often the most influential person in your selection, which also goes on to say you cannot influence selection by just impressing the interviewing officer or the GTO unless you are good naturally, unless you are fit for the job you are applying for. 99.9% of the times you won't be recommended. There may be a one off exception, but most likely you won't be recommended unless you are naturally good. So all those tips that you keep asking me, ये इंटरव्यू में कैसे परफॉर्म करना है, जीटीओ में कैसे परफॉर्म करना है, those will help you to make a better impression, to maybe increase your score. But ultimately, whether you make that recommendation or not depends on whether you are a good person overall. So that is why I always keep telling, focus on yourself, improve yourself. Selection is secondary. It will come as a natural outcome if you improve yourself. And this person, the psychologist, will play a crucial role in recognizing whether you have actually given your true responses or you have tried to cut through the system and get recommended somehow. So that mystery man usually has a lot of influence on your selection. Uh, just give me one moment. I think it's clearer now. So yeah, and another misconception is if the psychologist says no, you will not be recommended. वो भी गलत है. Although this psychologist has a lot of influence on your selection, it doesn't mean he has ultimate power. So there is no such veto power with the psychologist. It is equally distributed. Psychologist, GTO, interview, and conference. All four stages have equal scores. Okay, let me just tell you the scoring scheme also if some of you do not know it yet. Your SSB is scored on a total score of 900, and the psychologist has 225 marks, the interviewing officer has 225, the GTO has 225, and overall, when they come together and discuss during the conference stage, that adds another 225. So 225 into 4, total 900 marks is your SSB ka overall score. And if you clear a certain cutoff, you will be recommended. Otherwise, no. So 360 out of 900 is the actual cutoff. So in CDS entry, that is scaled down later, but overall, you just need to know out of 225, if an assessor gives you around 120, it means that he is recommending you. Otherwise, if he is giving lesser, he is not recommending you. And usually they don't give more also. Around 120 only they keep. So either just recommended or not recommended. बहुत ज़्यादा also they do not give. So overall around 360, 380, 390 या maximum 400, 420 तक ही जाती है most candidates का score. And that is later scaled according to your whichever entry you have come through, NCC, NDA, CDS, etc. So yeah, that is the mark distribution, and I wanted to re-emphasize this because there is no such ultimate power with the psychologist. Equally marks distributed hai. So that is important for you to understand. And what is the role of this psychologist? Why is this person an important character in your recommendation? He is the person who is an expert in analyzing your responses, in telling things about you which maybe even you don't know, or some psychological patterns which can be easily recognized by assessing your responses and your behaviors. This is the person who maps that entire anatomy and comes with an overall profile of who this candidate is, what are his needs, what are his motives, what are his fears, what are his core values, etc. So because this person draws all these conclusions from your responses, he automatically becomes a very influential person. Because whatever is being observed has already been scored, but things which are deep inside you, which you may not consciously project, but there are some unnoticeable or unrecognized patterns in your thinking, that comes out in front of the psychologist. So that is his objective. He is there to do that. And a key principle that is followed across the psychological tests is that there is no right or wrong answer. Whatever you write is correct for your thinking, for the context you are coming from, for the life experiences you have had. And a person coming from, let's say, a village background with not so good education and not so good financial conditions of family, etc., may give a completely different set of responses as compared to a privileged kid who has come from an urban background with well-educated parents, fairly rich upbringing, etc. So both these candidates are good. It is not like one is better than the other, but the responses will be completely different. So you cannot compare what you have written to what someone else has written and judge the quality. So for the context he is coming from, that response he has given may be of very good quality, and for the background you are coming from, what you have written may also be of very good quality. So there can't be any comparison. So that is one key principle of all psychology tests, TAT, SRT, WAT, and SD, that you need to remember. So a few very important theoretical assumptions of human mind before we dive deeper into how psychology tests need to be attempted. What are some things you need to remember? Let us see the background कि ये टेस्ट कहाँ से originate हुआ and क्यों होती है, what are they looking for. So they are essentially measuring these 8 faculties: your attitudes, your emotions, your values, your choices, your problem solving ability, your power of imagination, your decision making, and your perception. These are fairly self explanatory words. I don't want to get deep into what each thing means. If any one of you doesn't know or has some confusion between these terms, you can just Google them and look at the dictionary meaning of each word, because there is a lot to cover today. I'm not getting deep into these, but essentially these are the 8 things that are being measured across your psychology tests. And another important concept for you to know is your mind has 3 layers. Any human mind, has broadly three layers: the conscious mind, the subconscious mind, and the unconscious mind. The conscious mind is the sabse upar wala layer, which is usually evident to everyone. Whatever you are thinking right now and consciously acting on something, that is emerging out of your conscious mind. You can control it and you are completely aware of what you are thinking. That is coming from your conscious mind. Just for example, if there is a pen lying in front of you, you are consciously seeing it and you are thinking. Your brain responses are giving you signals ki you can pick it up, and then your brain sends responses to your hand, and then your hand goes and picks it up. So that is consciously you thinking and acting. That comes from your conscious mind. Subconscious mind is a little deeper, and these are areas of your mind which you can partially control. It is just below the top surface. But let's say in your dreams, you are if you are not going into deep sleep, some people say I'm in subconscious sleep, or I'm not completely aware of what I'm doing, or such examples. So subconscious mind is a little deeper, where you can control, you can be aware of what you're thinking to a small extent, not completely. And deeper than that is your unconscious mind, which is the core area. That is where all your personal attributes lie. Almost 90% of your unconscious mind, almost 90% of your entire human mind is your unconscious mind. That is where everything lies: your values, your emotions, all the eight faculties that I just told, except a few, like problem solving ability is somewhat of a conscious and subconscious thinking. Even imagination comes there. Decision making also comes across the three layers. But all the core things like attitudes, values, choices, your deepest personal qualities lie in your unconscious mind. These are things which you usually cannot control. So, and obviously that is why you cannot manipulate your psychology responses. Although you write very good stories, your WATs have, on the surface they look very very excellent, but a trained psychologist, when he recognizes patterns between your TAT, WAT, SRT, and then marries up those things with your PIQ and your SD, it is easily evident that these are not coming out of your own background, out of your own thinking. It can be easily recognized. So that is why I always tell you, strictly do not write any model answers, do not rely on coaching academies, any experts giving you ऐसे ऐसे stories लिखना चाहिए, ऐसे ऐसे WATs होती है. These are the ideal responses to each situation. That is a very wrong approach. You need to understand your own mind, you need to understand the requirements of the job, and then you should become that person who is eligible to take up that job or take up that responsibility of an officer. And then throughout this process, when you improve yourself, you will naturally give out those responses after a certain time, let's say 6 months, 1 year, how much ever time it takes for you to prepare yourself. These responses will come out naturally because you have trained your mind in that way. So your unconscious mind cannot be faked. So that is one thing you need to remember. And what are some important concepts when it comes to assessment of psychology tests? I just told you there's this concept of self. There is this inner self which partially you are aware of, partially you are not aware of. So what you are showing to the outside world is one part of you, but not the complete picture of who you are as a person. There may be facets of your personality which you are not showing to the outside world, and there may be some areas of your personality which you do not know yourself. There's this beautiful framework. It's called the Johari window tool. Just Google this up. You can make a note of this. It divides your mind into four different areas. One side of your personality which you know and which you show to the world, and another area which you know but you do not show to the world, a third area which the world recognizes but you do not recognize, and the fourth area which neither you know nor the world knows. It is very deep inside you, and you do not know what this side of your personality is. So unless you know in some sense all three areas, the fourth is very difficult. It is difficult for you to improve on those qualities. So introspection is the most important when it comes to you preparing for psychology tests. First, sit back. Do not get into story practicing. Do not take words and start writing responses. Sit back, take 1 or 2 days, think of everything you know about yourself, analyze whatever you have done from your childhood to now, talk to people if required, and then draw a complete figure of who you are as a person. Write your, I told you about these eight faculties, right? Try to note down all these things in your own words, and then you can start preparing for your psychology tests. So, knowing yourself, that is very important before you prepare for any tests in SSB. And another key concept used in assessment is potential versus performance. So, what you are doing at that point for those 5 days may not be your full potential, because you have not gone through military training, because you have not been guided by the right officers, right systems. You have come from a civilian background, or maybe from army, NCC backgrounds also, but you have not gone through officer training. That is a completely different game, and the level of exposure you get and the kind of training you are exposed to is uh, of very unique and extremely good nature. So because you haven't gone through that, your core qualities are not expected at a very high level. Only surface level potential is judged, and your performance has to show some sort of potential also. Even if your current performance is bad, like your stories were not very good, in your GTO ground you could not perform outdoor tasks very well, but overall across those 5 days, if your potential is seen as high, then a person with high potential can still be recommended even if his or her performance has not been up to the mark. So for example, because interview mein you don't see each other, psychology test mein obviously you don't have any idea how each one has performed. Only you make conclusions based on GTO performance. There will be one guy who is a superstar performer who did extremely well in all the tasks. You expect that person to get recommended, but it need not happen that way, because his potential and his performance across the three techniques, that is the psych, the interview, and the GTO, may not have been up to the mark. So they are judging you on the basis of your performance, true, but they are not looking at only current performance. They are trying to extrapolate that performance into future potential, and looking at you as an officer material after you go through military training, what you will become on the day of that commissioning when you take up those ranks. That is being judged, that is being uh, in some sense predicted from that day itself, the day of your assessment itself, and accordingly you are recommended or not recommended. So that is one thing you need to remember. This applies to all techniques, not only psychology, interview as well as GTO also. And your personality equation, I covered this yesterday also. Your personality is a combination of some hereditary factors and some environmental factors. By environment, I mean the schooling you've had, the kind of people you've hung out with, the early childhood influences you've had, the content you follow these days on social media, because that is the time you are spending most of your days going on, scrolling on Instagram, YouTube, etc. So the kind of people you are following, the kind of content you are consuming, and anything, any traumatic incidents, any happy incidents that have happened in your life, everything, an entire picture of your life from childhood to now is your environment. And heredity is something you carry in your DNA, which you cannot control. So your personality is a combination of these two, and that personality is being checked. So there are some things in your heredity which you cannot change even if you consciously work on it, but you can improve it to some extent if you if you recognize those and if you try to work on them. So that is one thing you need to understand. And across the psychology test, there is free will. No one is telling you what kind of stories to write, what kind of sentences to write in your WAT, how you should react to certain situations, or even SD mein, what are the ideal words to use, or is there any framework? Nothing. They have given you a free will, completely up to you, how you want to customize your responses, how you want to show your qualities. So, most genuine inputs are expected, but that also has come with a paradox, because it has such free will कि तुम कुछ भी लिखो. You guys feel कि it is a very easy test, stories ही लिखना है, sentences ही लिखना है. You just mug up responses from others, or rely on coaching academies, and you go assuming कि it's a simple test, anyone can crack it. Unless you do it on your own, unless you show your original personality across these tests, I won't say it is a difficult test, but it is very evident कि it is not your original response, and you will straight away be rejected or not recommended. So try to understand the logic behind these tests and practice in the right manner. So because you have free will, it is your strength. You can write what you want, and you can show the kind of qualities which you want to show. Obviously, unless you have them, you cannot show. But if you have them, you can show it in a good manner. So that free will is a big advantage given to you, but most of you are not using it yet. You are relying on short-term tips and tricks, and eventually not getting recommended and keep on giving attempts again and again. So important for you to understand this concept also. And projective technique is a psychological technique used where you are given vague situations. If you look at the three psychology tests, except the self description, TAT is a test where you are shown hazy images. There is something going on, but it is not very clear कि exactly क्या है. Even in WAT, there's a word given and you are expected to do anything with it. कोई rule नहीं है कि ऐसे ही sentences लिखना है. So it is also somewhat vague. कि एक word लिख दिया तो उसमें क्या sentence मिलेगा? There are 100 types of sentences that you can make. So that is also a vague area. And SRT also, there's a situation given to you and you are told react in whatever way you want. So that also is a gray area, somewhat vague. So these tests are designed on purpose. They are purposefully kept vague because when those kind of stimuli are given to you, you will fill the responses according to what you would do in that situation. Let's say in SRT, it is said he went on to a excursion with his friends and suddenly a robber came and snatched a bag from one of his friend's luggage. So what would you do or what would he do will be a question and there will be a blank space. So if you put yourself in that situation or even if you don't consciously do, if that kind of a vague question is given to you, your first response is naturally what you would do in that situation. So you need not be some ideal person who would go on, fight with 10 people and bring the bag back. Naturally, if you were in that position, whatever you would do, you will imagine the hero also to do the same and you will write the same thing. He would have maybe complained to the police or taken a picture of the thief who tried to run away. Anything that you would feel, you will write, and indirectly you are putting yourself in that position and writing what exactly you would do. So similarly, even in WIT, when a word is given to you, you unconsciously think of any concept, anything that you have read, anything that you have experienced in your life, and try to relate it to that word and write whatever comes first to your mind. And obviously TAT is your entire imagination, everything which has shaped you over these years, coming out in the form of a story. So when a situation is vague, when there is no rule or when there is no structure to a test, it is often seen and it is psychologically proven also that a person will fill in his or her own qualities into his or her responses. So these are some very important concepts for you to understand: a concept of self, a potential versus performance, your personality equation, the concept of free will, and what projective technique means. So remember these. Try to learn more about them if you are interested. You can Google them. You can also have a discussion with me if you want to learn more.